So till now was the avodah tzadikim the way it should be lachatchila. In the avodah machshava dibur Moishe, in the avodah being mamshech alikus, in transforming bia, in the avodah of tefillah, of Torah, and Gemilas Chasadim as explained previously. However, that is if the person was not chata or pogam v'avaras haderech. But if he did, so then he can't be mamshich the eish. The eish shal maila, k'avayla kacha eish eichluhu, he has no kelim. So he has to go to the source of the fire, and that's the tzur, b'samticha b'nikras atzur. The rock, the clefts of the rock. And there's no eish, b'mitzius, it's a helem she'ena b'mitzius, not even like the glowing coal, which requires only the mapuach, so use the bellows to blow and to bring the eish to a state of gilui. But from the tzur, the tzur has to be struck. And that's avodas hatshuvah. It's not pretty. It's not pretty. And this is the chele yatir that the Zohar speaks of. So let's continue. The greatest strength, energy, force, which is avodas hatshuvah. So the second paragraph, so the simple pshat, Eibishter tells Moshe Rabbeinu that when my glory passes, the samticha b'nikras atzur, and I'll place you in the cleft of the rock, which will shield you, in other words, from my revelation, and then you'll be able to see the hinder part of Alikus. We explained earlier the kveiding in our Torah. Kveiding, as we explained earlier, is Torah, which we addressed earlier, right? Aval ba'avur kveidi, ba'avur kveidi, ba'avur, she'aynu she'oivrim chas v'sholem ala Torah. But my glory, my honor, my Torah was transgressed. So what's the Eitzah Azav v'samticha b'nikras hatzur, she'tzorich lahamshich mibchinas nikras hatzur dafki. That the avoid is not shayach to be mamshich the oir, because there's no keli for the eish, but the only avodah is to draw from the tzur itself makar eish. So the Eibishter told him, there's a place with me. When you tzavta la tzur, you'll stand on the rock, and then he enters into the rock. The Medrash says, you would have expected the pasuk to say, I'll be at this place. But the place is with me. So the Medrash explains, no, before we get to the Medrash. So what's the diak of Mokim? The Mokim koya klolos seder ashtalshalus. Place is with me. Place, of course, is gvul, is ishtalshalus. Ubeproti is yosing in a malchus, and it's malchus, as we learned that malchus is what gives rise to time and space. Is the inyan of time even higher than malchus, but space only starts really in malchus. Time also, in the hardcore sense, Vashem Melech, Molech, Yimloich, the tenses only appear in Malchus, in no other names. And that's bound up with place. But place is a lower darga even. So that's the problem here, is he sinned, and he blemished, destroyed the inyan, the place. So then, as it tzarich lahamshir b'chinas in a mokim iti. So this is the mokim iti, the diak of the Medrash. Not I'm at the place, but the place is with me. Asri tfeiloli. The place is secondary to me, not I'm secondary to the place. And that's also reflected in another famous Medrash. He's the place of the world. The world is not his place. The world doesn't hold him, contain him, but he contains the world. So we have to draw from the darga where the mokim is bottle, that's where the pagam happened. We have to draw to the place of iti, a place of humakai mishalayla. The moker, that's the tzur, that's the rock itself, not the oil, but from the etzel. And this instruction was said to Moishe Rabbeinu as akdoma to the galus of the Gimel Midas Harachamim, from where the cleansing comes as a result of tshuva. Shebehem ksiv havaya beis pomim begins with Hashem twice. Achas kedim sheyechta v'acha la'achas sheyechta v'yoshev. One is before he sins, and one is after he sins and returns. So that implies a level again, even higher than the sin state, even higher, than the pre-sin state. Havaya kedim sheyechta. The famous kasha, what do you need? We're talking here about the person who sins. Why is the amshach of Kodim Sheyechta? There was no sin then. It's not a problem. The answer is Kodim Sheyechta, that's the matzav of the tzaddik. But he can't reach that. He can't go back to that kind of innocence. It's not possible. Something much deeper. And that's Havai, even Lifnei Kodim Sheyechta. That's the Ma'al of Tshuva that reaches a level even higher than not sinning, than Avedis Tzaddikim. As he concludes, in order to draw down the forgiveness and the pardon and the forgiveness through tshuva, cannot draw on the oil. For that you need kelim, and perfect kelim, not blemished and broken ones. Rather, he has to be mamshich from the tzur. So we still have to understand these which is from where the pardon and forgiveness comes. So the question now is, it's chesed. So why are we drawing on the level of tzur, which is the makar of gvura? Tzur, a rock, it's not just bepashtos, it's not a symbol of chesed. And moreover, there's no gilui there. There's no chesed. The whole point of chesed is gilui and embrace. It's cold and hard. The less smaller Bahai Atik. Statement in Zohar. Atik is Atzmos of Elikus. There's no smaller, there's no Gvura in Atik. What does that mean? Shagvura Shalamayla Gamkin Beprinas Ashpa. There is Gvura, but not smaller left. Left is the union of Helem and concealment and holding back and punishment and Midas Hadin. That doesn't exist in Atik, but there's Gvura Sheba Atik. So the answer is that there it's also Ashpa. Not only is it Ashpa, it's even higher than Chesed. As he goes on to illustrate, there's a mile when Ashpa comes dafka through Gvura, meaning the Sheresh Gvura, the way it is in Atik, where it's all the likus and all good, all love. So there's a mile in the Gvura in 3 inyan. Inyan Aleph, the first thing. Gvura, there's a more intense energy and life force more than Chesed. We see it down here. Behemoths the chayis, behemoths animals and chayis, and all animals. Behemoths beasts, cattle, and chayis, wild animals. It's true, the behemoth has tremendous koyach to do work. There are many harvests in the power of the ox, much more than if a person would harvest the field. As the pasuk says, "Kasher la'oil," the ox for the yoke, v'chamer l'masa, and the donkey for the load. Mikamokim, nonetheless, despite the brute power, iluchi ba'atzlos, it walks slowly, literally laziness, heavily really. The eilos, it is kolkach, and there's not so much alacrity, energy. Mashenkin chaya shilucha b'miros v'zrizos. The chaya goes quickly and with zrizos. Because the chayes, which is gvura, they're aggressive. There is takberes achayis, much more intense life force. The shayrish that comes down to the mat that's aggressive and we stay away. But its source is gvura, and we're speaking the source in Atik. In brackets, Mashenkin, and that's why the chesed behema is easily harnessed to giving life, chesed to producing the yield in the field and transportation, etc., which is for sustenance and chesed, easily harnessed. But the chaya is not, because they comes down the mata through the tzimtzum, so his intense energy is negative. But the shayrish is very intense. But like in Nikaras b'Shem Chaya, that's why it's called a Chaya. They're all creatures are living creatures. Why are Chayas called Chayas? Chayas Asada. Hashem Takbeiras Chayas, because in them we see this intense energy, intense life force. So that's the first Mailu and Ashpa. It comes from the Shoyrish, and it's Ashpa. So it's very intense, much more than Chesed. That's one Maila in Damshocha, Daka from the Tzur. That's what we're talking about here. When it comes from Gvura, then it descends to a distant place. So obviously, the more powerful the source, the further it descends or extends. It brings an interesting example. If you speak from the depth of the heart, then it penetrates somebody else's heart. When it comes from the blood, the warmth of the blood, actually more than that, the boiling of the blood. And this is Shunyan HaGvura is B'chal, blood is Gvura, especially the Resichus Adomim is Gvura. So Azen Nichnosim B'Leva Makabel, then the recipient gets it, Afshurochi Mamashpia, even if he's very far. And what gets it into his heart is the passion of the speaker of Mashpia. So that's the second thing, is that when the Hashpah comes from Sheresh HaGvura, its reach is far deeper and far greater and to more distant places, which is what's required here. The person was distant. Binyan HaGimel, and the third mile in when Hashpah comes from Gvura, Sheresh HaGvura, Shebeschalkin the tippin. So because it's Gvura, like rain, doesn't come down as a sheet of water, which actually would destroy the world. Skip the line. No? I did? Yeah. So the oil comes in great number. We call rain Gvuris Gisham, the Gvura of rain. What's Gvura got to do with the rain? Rain is life, but it's chesed. Can't live without water. But it comes in a way of drops from Mischalkin, the tippin. That's the reason why it's called Gvura. And Adrabah, only because it comes in individual drops as a beneficial. Otherwise, it would just flood, overwhelm. K'may Marazal, as it says in Gemara, Shalachol Tipo, it's a very difficult thing. Every drop, Yesh Tfus Bifnei Atzma, has a form from Lamaila, the clouds, whatever it means, from whence it issues. And it comes out of a different faucet. The Gemara session, whatever the meaning here is, and it's in Mefarshim. Shemonish take tipin yoitzes mitfus echad. If two drops would come out of the one source, one tfus means a form. mold, it would blur the world. It would just flood the world. Tishtush means to blur. So it comes out dafka in a way of what? Of ischalkos and ribu ischalkos. That's the mile. Dafka gvura. It's water, but it comes in a way of what? Takbedes achayis. And you said the agvura, water classically is chesed, but here that's the ashpa aspect. But the shayrish really is gvura. The mis is that in Atik, all the midas, the spheres, always are all one, not separate in yonim. So the agvuras nasi is chalkos. So through the gvuras, it becomes these chalkos. K'moiki nasa the agvuras hariboy, and his chalkos means many. Shezeh mashakos va'arbe ezara. About the birth of Yitzchak, Allah increase. Dafka by Yitzchak is in of riboy. Vetelis Yitzchak, and I'll give him. Hashem promised He will give. The Navi is saying, Yeshua speaking there, 68. Yeah, recalling history that Hashem promised that increase his seed and give him Yitzchak. Arbe begemate Yitzchak. The word increase is begemate Yitzchak. You can do the math. What is it? 1 and 200 and 2 and 5. Huh?
208.
Yeah. Shobchinas Gvuras, that's Gvuras. Shaydeze Dafka Nasing in a Riboy. So there's many. So the Shpo comes in many Yefanim. It's not just one Indian, but all kinds of brachas come in all kinds of areas, like the different tipping and in great abundance. There is a Yuvan Bin Agvurish Shalamayla. So now concluding, why Dafkin the Tzur? Because the less smaller Bayatika, there's no holding back there. There's no smile. Smile means to be judgmental. The left Gvura Midas Adin. Shebchinas Atik, because in Atik it's all purely cause, it's all the Eibishter's love and desire for us. It's all that's expressed there. And there's no discrimination. And Gam Agvura Signin Shalashpa will not judge there. And there the Gvura comes in the way of Ashpa. But to reach that Avodah, as you said earlier, it's the Avodah Vakah. It's the striking of the self. But from there comes the Takberes Achayis, the Nimshach Gam L'Makim Bracha, and it comes very far where we are. And the Bracha and the Amshacha comes with his Chalkos and in great abundance, affecting every area, different drop, every area, cleansing in every area of our life. Now understand the Maila of the Bali Tshuva of the Avodah of Tzadikim. That the tzaddik cannot reach Ki'adeh, but it's a tzaddik in B'Torah mitzvahs amshichim b'b'chinas ha'eish. Tzaddik is mamshich in Torah mitzvahs oir, the fire. Mashenkin Bali Tshuva and keeping shimsad hachet v'apgam chulub. Whereas Bali Tshuva sins because of the chet and the pagam, so there's no kelim nasis avedosem b'cheli. So the avodah comes to a much deeper place. Na'idezim amshichim b'sherish and boker ha'eish. That's the Tshuva, the deep charota, the mesiras nefesh, and so on. So this is mamshich from the source of the fire, the source of Gvura. I mean, the whole sin happened because of the downside of Gvura. The Gvura pales tzimtzum, because there's a tzimtzum, Hashem is concealed, and he got caught up. Feel God's presence, he wouldn't sin. We only sin because of the tzimtzum. So here it's the very cause of it is transforming it. The very cause of the sin is the hell and the hester, the Gvura. Here he goes to the Moker Gvura, which they should say, why did I make this hell and the hester? Because I don't like you. Because I love you. And that's why there's the Gvura, and that's why you pchira, and that's why you sin, but that's going to lead us to being closer. That's the whole shirish of it all. The Moker Gvura is Atik, is the Eibush says, Atik B'cholos is the delight that the Taindog the Eibush has from a Yid. So that's the whole source of it. That's the whole source why there is a Gvura. So in Atik, why is there a Gvura mitzad his desire for a relationship with us? So there it's all hashpa and love in the deepest way. So it's not something else. It's the chet is because of the result of Gevura, and its tikkun is the shorish of Gevura. Why did all this happen? Why is this such a matziv? It's all because of my desire for you. And now that I know you're going to, and that's the point, we'll get closer. Much closer than we could ever have been. And now, as a result of the tshuva, it's an intense relationship. It was nice before, but now it's intense. Now it's passionate. And no matter how far we have strayed, the embrace is there. The distance that the sin engendered through the pagam. I just added it. Good to hear if you try to listen later. It doesn't say it in the Maamar, but it adds Havana. We haven't answered our original question fully yet. What about the poor tzaddik, poor fella? He's penalized because he just doesn't want to sin. He doesn't want to betray. So that's it. Doomed never to reach the pnimis hakavana be'emes, which is this intense connection. That's the question. Why should the lot of the tzaddik, when there's never distance, be diminished, as it were? The answer is about this. The Zohar says, Mashiach also l'asovat tzaddikai b'tuft. At Chassidus, Mashiach will come and teach the tzaddikim to do tshuva. I told you once the Rebbe said, in just translating this, we'll soon see the beard in the Maamar, but it's all the same. The Rebbe said that just simply close the Gemara and God be makar of another yid. That's your tshuva. That's your tshuva, and in his tshuva, you will be lifted. He's the big mashpia. You think you're doing him a favor? You learn from him. You learn and you will be elevated to a place that you can't go to your own avodah. That's the whole avodah of Avos Yisrael and Shlichus especially. Shlichus no matter. Ader-Rabbi. So this is the avodah that Mashiach and Chassidus came before. Baal Shem Tov started this whole revolution. Before the Baal Shem Tov, as you all know, the Talmid Chacham was beneath his dignity to even respond to a greeting from an Amoritz who would not dare to wish him good Shabbos or say hello. He wouldn't dare. He'd be mad, he'd be crazy. It wouldn't be like the Talmid Chacham wouldn't respond, it would be like he didn't even hear it. Did that guy just say good Shabbos to me? Can't be. I was imagining it. That was the divide. So Hashem began already the Chassidus to transform and reveal the tzur, the avodah mitzad yechida, etzem haneshama, and so. So we find this by Moishe himself. What the mile of tshuva? She's alle lebchinas tshuva. Moishe Rabbeinu himself. Look at the Torah there. I think he's referring to this very story here. But Moishe Rabbeinu is elevated to the level of tshuva. Da'afshe betchila isa v'nasa be'ofen. Avodas tzaddikim. So till now his avodah was avodas tzaddikim, but now he is through the whole cheta egel. He's going benikras hatzur. And ilacher is in them marloi v'samticha benikras hatzur. The Moishe Rabbeinu shegiya l'maylas hatzur. And here he's connecting to the nikras that cleft the depth of the tzur, which the helam she'ene b'mitzius. The etzem ha'or. Moishe Rabbeinu reaches that through his bond with Yid. There is a Eitzel Kol, Tzaddikim, sorry. And so it will be by all the Tzaddikim, Bebias Mashiach, that when Mashiach will come, and in the preparation before, which is now, it's more than preparation, it's the beginnings of it. Also, that's of a Tzaddikai, B'tshuv, that he will make the Tzaddikim do tshuva. He will come to return the Tzaddikim in tshuva. Then you do a Maamar Baal Shem Tov. It's known the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov board when by Rinayim. A few places the Chassidus quotes him out of Chassidus, the Chernobyler. שיש למשיח הפרוטי בכל אחד ואחד, there's משיח הפרוטי in every single yid, והוא בחינס יחיד שבנפש, this is יחיד. כן, וגם במבוא בגרס הקודש על פוסק פודה בשלום נפשי. And like which is understood from Tanya on the Pasuk Pada B'Shalom Nafshi Sheyeshne Gula Aprotis. That's the general redemption that Mashiach affects, but then there's the individual Gula, which is effected through the Mashiach within Shebekol Echad Ve'echad, that he's shaykh to have a personal redemption because there's the Nekud of Mashiach within his own Neshama. Koyach al Gula Protis would be as a Mashiach Aproti. Where does the Koyach come for individual redemption? And to connect it in the Kud of Mashiach within each person. Moishe Rabbeinu is ma'ir this. Is it after the tzad? Shneisen koyach legalis as Mashiach haproti. He gives the koyach and inspires that a yid should connect to his own Mashiach within. The ajay deizeh boim legula klolis. That's the individual gula. And this then brings to the collective redemption al yedei Mashiach hakloli through Mashiach in general. B'chinas yechida klolis, he embodies his neshama, is the yechida klolis of Klal Yisrael throughout all generations. As we learned about at length in Inyana Shal Teres Achsidus, remember. V'lachin kishem shemesh Rabbeinu gia gam l'ma'ales hatshuva, since he now, this is before the Yidden or anything there addressed, it all starts within himself, and he reaches the ma'al of tshuva, he enters into the Nikles Hatzur, K'meikin Peil, U'ma'ales hatshuva, Esel Kol B'nei Yisrael, he affects that and inspires that within every Yid. He doesn't say it in the Maimer, but this is the Hakdamah to all of this was, Moishe Rabbeinu was saying to the Eibishter, if you don't forgive the Yidden, remove me from Torah. And in so doing, he revealed and stirred the etzem bond, the skashrus pnimi v'atzmi that Moishe has with every Yid, higher even than Torah, which is what tshuva is higher than Torah. Yes, we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow is what? Friday. So it's the challenge, the end of the week. Listen, you're supposed to be up all night Thursday night. So if not up all night Thursday night, at least be up early on Friday morning when it's still dark. We're going to finish the Maimah tomorrow, or at least we probably will. We're almost finished. So let's make a big effort to be here tomorrow.